They thought they could trap him with accusations, but instead, he tore off his mic and walked out. Here's what happened. The studio lights blazed, reflecting off the polished black floor. Cameras stood motionless, silent witnesses waiting to capture every subtle expression. Across the glass table, Elon Musk and Greg Talbot sat, both appearing at ease, but the atmosphere carried an unspoken tension. Greg, a seasoned TV host with a reputation for sharp questioning and a left-leaning perspective, had conducted countless interviews. His gray suit was pristine, his hands rested neatly on the desk, and his practiced smile suggested warmth without true sincerity. Elon, on the other hand, leaned back in his chair, one ankle casually resting on his knee. His expression was unreadable. He had done hundreds of interviews, yet this one felt different. His instincts told him Greg wasn't here just to talk about Tesla, SpaceX, or his latest ventures. There was something more beneath the surface. The show's theme music faded, replaced by the steady voice of an off-screen announcer. Tonight, billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk joins Greg Talbot for an exclusive conversation. No topic is off-limits. Stay tuned for a discussion you won't forget. The red recording light blinked to life. Greg adjusted his tie and turned to the camera. Welcome back to the Talbot Report. Tonight, we have a guest who needs no introduction. He has revolutionized the auto industry, launched rockets into space, and is currently at the center of more controversies than we can count. Elon Musk, thanks for being here. Elon gave a small nod. Thanks for having me. His voice was even, his posture relaxed, but his gaze was sharp, scanning Greg like an equation, looking for inconsistencies. Greg wasted no time. Let's start light, he said with a rehearsed chuckle. Twitter, or should I say X. Many believe the platform has changed dramatically under your leadership. Some think for the better, others, not so much. Elon smirked slightly. Depends who you ask. If you ask those who value free speech, they'll say it's improved. If you ask those who preferred censorship, they'll say it's worse. Greg raised an eyebrow. Censorship? That's a strong word. It's the right word, Elon countered. Greg let the moment stretch before shifting in his seat. Surely you'd agree that free speech doesn't mean allowing hate to spread unchecked? Elon exhaled, already seeing where this was headed. What you call hate speech, someone else might call a strong opinion. The question is, who decides? A group of unelected fact-checkers? Greg's smile remained, but his eyes hardened. So, no regrets about how you've handled things? Elon shrugged. Mistakes? Sure. Regret? Number Twitter was dying when I bought it. Now, people actually use it. Greg nodded slowly. Interesting, but let's move on. The discussion covered Tesla's latest innovations, Neuralink's ambitious goals, and Musk's views on AI regulation. But Greg's tone had shifted. His questions felt strategic, not unusual for an interview, but there was an edge, a creeping hostility. Then, a subtle change in Greg's demeanor, small but noticeable. He leaned forward slightly, fingers interlaced. His next words carried a different weight. You've built an empire, Elon, no doubt about that. But with great power comes great scrutiny. Elon blinked, unimpressed. That's usually how it works. Greg tilted his head. Then let's talk about that scrutiny. Musk could sense it. This was where the real interview began. Greg's polished smile remained, but his eyes had sharpened. The warm pleasantries were over. He tapped a few notes on his tablet. You've always been seen as someone who pushes boundaries. People admire that. But some say, you push them too far. Elon didn't flinch. Progress requires risk. Greg nodded as if agreeing. Of course. But let's discuss accountability. He turned to the camera. Your leadership has been described as brilliant but reckless. Employees at Tesla and SpaceX talk about impossible deadlines, grueling hours, and a culture of fear. He turned back to Musk. Are they lying? Elon exhaled quietly. I expect high performance. We're building rockets and AI, not flipping burgers. I don't force anyone to work for me. They choose to because they believe in the mission. Greg lifted an eyebrow. Fair point. But what about reports of employees being fired for questioning your decisions? Engineers dismissed overnight for minor disagreements. Elon shrugged. If someone isn't aligned with the mission, they shouldn't be here. No one's entitled to a job just because they've been around a while. Greg pursed his lips as if considering his next move. Then he leaned in. Let's talk about your stance on AI. Elon's expression remained steady, but he noticed the shift. You've warned about the dangers of artificial intelligence, even calling it an existential threat. Yet, you're actively developing AI through xAI, Neuralink, and Tesla's self-driving technology. Isn't that a contradiction? Elon gave a half-smile. If you're afraid of floods, do you just hope it never rains, or do you build better dams? Greg let the analogy settle. So, you believe controlling AI is the only way to protect humanity? I believe if the wrong people control it, we're in trouble. Greg's lips twitched slightly. The wrong people? Who are they? Elon's gaze was steady. Governments that prioritize control over innovation, tech companies that put profit above ethics, media outlets that manipulate narratives instead of informing the public. Greg chuckled. So, everyone but you? Elon's expression didn't change, but his fingers tapped against the armrest. Greg's smirk widened. See, that's what people find interesting about you. You paint yourself as an anti-establishment genius, a lone warrior fighting corruption. But some would argue that makes you exactly what you claim to be fighting against. Elon exhaled through his nose. Power isn't the problem. It's who wields it. And for what purpose? Greg nodded, as if accepting the answer, but his smile faded. Let's talk about your connections. Elon's expression remained calm, but Greg continued. You've been seen at private events with world leaders, controversial billionaires, government officials, some not exactly known for human rights. He tilted his head. Why should people trust you're not playing both sides? Elon leaned forward. Meeting someone doesn't mean agreeing with them. I'll talk to anyone if it leads to progress. Greg pressed on. But there's a difference between talking and working together. Documents suggest you've made private deals. Elon's fingers tightened around the armrest. Greg let the silence hang before delivering his next line. Some say you're not the rebel you pretend to be, that you're just another billionaire protecting his own interests. Elon exhaled through his nose, jaw tightening. Greg wasn't done. If you have nothing to hide, why are you so defensive? That was it. Elon reached for his mic, unclipped it, and tossed it onto the table. The small thud echoed. This isn't an interview, he said, his voice low. It's a setup. Greg opened his mouth, but Elon was already standing, straightening his blazer. He cast one last glance at the host before turning on his heel. The cameras rolled. Greg turned back to the audience, controlling his expression, but there was satisfaction in his eyes. Well, he said, exhaling dramatically. That was unexpected. The headlines exploded. Social media ignited. The battle had only just begun.